If you want to play xCloud on your iPhone, we've got some bad news. This week has been filled with xCloud news. We now know when xCloud is coming in about early to mid-September. We also know how it's going to be bundled in. It's going to be part of Game Pass Ultimate. And we also know that you're not going to have to pay for it. But we also now know that it's probably not coming to iOS devices. While Microsoft has had a preview app on iOS, when I tried to use it yesterday, it didn't work. Reaching out to Microsoft, they have confirmed that that preview has effectively ended, although we kind of expected it to run until about the time of the launch for the proper version included in Game Pass Ultimate. Now the question is why? And we all kind of know why. While Microsoft is not officially coming out and throwing punches at Apple right now, it's Apple. This is not a technical limitation. Microsoft has already figured out how to make xCloud work. We have neat devices like this Razer Kishi that allow you to turn your phone into like a Switch thing and play Ori at a really good experience. This is not a technical issue. This is quite literally just logistical issues and legalese with Apple. Now, Apple has a pretty rich history of not liking other companies that are wanting to do fun stuff. They locked out pretty much the Epic Game Store. Steam has had some issues. Even Stadia, which is technically on iOS, doesn't allow you to play your games on there because Apple's being Apple. And you know, if you want to play games on your iOS device, you should just go use the Apple Arcade because that is how Apple wants you to pay for it at $60 a year. Now, the real reason here is more than likely is that Apple is holding Microsoft's feet to the fire and say, hey, if you want to do that on iOS, that's fine. You owe us 15% or 30% of the revenue that you were generating from it. And Microsoft's like, that's not going to happen. And we all know that right now, Apple is under some heat for some antitrust litigation regarding their practices and policies around the iOS App Store. Now, there is a slight bit of good news, and it's not directly related to this. I can confirm that Microsoft is testing console streaming from your local console to your iOS device with employees right now. Whether or not that will violate Apple's policies here in the near future, we don't know. But right now, if you're wanting to use xCloud on iOS, it's up to Apple to allow this to happen. Now, the interesting thing is Microsoft for the longest time had that streaming app available with the Master Chief Collection, and it worked. And then it just kind of stopped working yesterday. Now, we don't know exactly why it stopped working yesterday, if Microsoft just either pulled the plug or Apple pulled the plug or whatever, but the truth of the matter of fact is my version, the app that I have downloaded right now, I can't play it on my iOS device. It's completely gone. The beta app has expired, and here we are. So it's really frustrating because Microsoft has a home run of a service coming, and if you've used xCloud, especially with those like single player experiences, it's wonderful. Microsoft has really locked down the technology, and I think that's an ace in the sleeve, and especially because it's included for quote unquote free for xCloud or Game Pass Ultimate users, then it's just an additional advantage that Microsoft can offer through its service, and consumers are really getting shafted here. Now, this is not the first time Apple has done this, and it won't be the last until the big hand of the government comes in and says, hey, you can't do that because that's anti-competitive. We will find out. But if you're wondering what is going on with iOS and xCloud, it's going to be at a stalemate for a pretty substantial time. I don't see Microsoft giving in on this, at least not initially, because this is a pretty big cut for them to just, if they want to offer this specific feature of a larger service, they don't want to have to give Apple up to 30% of that revenue. I mean, you got to remember that xCloud is a part of Game Pass Ultimate, and it's not the only feature. It's not a standalone. So I don't know what Microsoft is explicitly going to be able to do to get around this other than either, given the demands or just wait. So for the time being, if you're using an iOS device, then, you're kind of up the creek without a paddle at this point, and there's nothing you can do about it. Obviously, you could switch to Android, but that's not really a viable solution for most people. If you like iOS, that's fine. You like iOS. If you like Android, that's fine. You like Android. If you like Xbox, I don't care. At the end of the day, it's just anti-competitive and anti-consumerism, which is a big challenge for Microsoft, especially since they don't have their own mobile platform. So that's the latest on what's going on with iOS and xCloud. We'll kind of have to keep our ears to the ground to see how this shakes out, because this has big implications for Microsoft, for Apple, for the overall gaming industry, and for, the customer too.